where they're adamant that actually, if Dyer is selected, it's because he's picking his mates, or if Winks is selected, it's because he's picking his mates. But
yeah, maybe he is. But maybe he is. Maybe he's just like, actually, I'm here for a few games. There's no pressure on me. I'm quite enjoying this. Thanks very much. Actually, I'm just treating it like I'm just having a nice time, and I don't want to make it complicated. So I'll pick the people that I know will listen to me, and we'll get on with it. And then that's what a manager does. Because we always end up going back to working analogies. But if if any one of us are at work and you're told, go pick a project team to go and do stuff, are you going to pick a project team with 2 or 3 people who are a fucking pain in the arse and don't listen to a thing that you tell them, or are you going to go and pick the people you get on with who you know are going to do the job?
You mean a bit like The Apprentice?
It's a bit like The Apprentice, but I wasn't going to talk about that because that's kind of TV nonsense. Yeah. But it's that kind of thing. So if he's just sitting around, if he's sitting in his office, like going like, do you remember? Or you may not have had this experience. Like if you ever went to your dad's workplace and he was like maybe slightly in charge, and you could sit in his chair at his desk and just swing your boots and play with his phone and just pretend to be the big man. It's like, that's Ryan right now. So he's just looking out the window going, I like those guys. So I think I'm going to go play football with them on Saturday.
Yeah. I don't buy into that whole idea that he's sort of picking his mates at the same time.
No, I don't. He's picking the best players.
It's like when I was at school, I never picked my mates for the football team, mainly because they were shit. But, my mate with the glasses that could barely see anything, he always went in goal. He was always the last pick. So I think
if he couldn't see anything, he couldn't save anything either, could he?
Yeah, exactly.
He couldn't focus.
He was fucking useless.
Okay, so you're going the other way. You think he's doing proper meritocracy, picking the best man for the job?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's obviously seen something in Tongi there that Mourinho obviously saw before. It's odd, isn't it? But
yeah,
I think with Tongi and Dele, I think it's just a case of him thinking that actually we need to get Dele in the team. That's it. Simple as we need to get Dele in the team. I have to sacrifice someone, and unfortunately for him, that's and Dembele. I don't understand. You can have the argument between Dembele and Lo Celso whether who should play out of those two. But it's clear that he.
Is there anything? So remind me of the contractual positions. So going back to picking up on this point, which is if there's talk of Dele maybe wandering off, but Levy really wants to keep him, and actually they want to keep him in the side, then he becomes more favourable than perhaps Tongi, for instance, who's contractually bound and going nowhere, and as club record signing. So therefore, it's sort of tough shit. He's just got to sit out a few weeks. There's lots of tactical stuff that potentially goes on behind the scenes coming to this end of the season, where decisions need to be made about who they want to desperately hang on to and offer new contracts to, and who they're prepared to let go.
Well, yeah,
maybe.
Right.
Maybe. That's a good point. That's a good point. Although, I don't know. I just think that he thinks that a lot of fans have said it for quite a while, and bearing in mind that Mason is also a fan as well as a player, I think he's actually a Spurs fan, and just think he would probably look at what Dele has previously brought in the past, and wants to try and to recreate that or rekindle that that passion and that fire within him. So I'm not sure in terms of contractually how much that's playing into Mason's mind. But anyway, shall we move on? Let's move on. So this is going to be your area actually, because I think you're going to have been our man on the ground, and I appreciate that you're coming at it from two different camps. But obviously on Saturday we had the protests. So there were two protests scheduled. Saturday was the main one. Seemed to get good numbers. Seemed to get got a lot of media coverage in the end. And there were lots of conflicts around which day should be the appropriate day, and then there was also a second one that was organised for the Sunday, I believe, as well. But with your shop being where it is located, what was it like on the ground on the day? What was how was the protest? Was it good natured? Was
I
it?
took a little walk down there. I went for a little walk just to see what was going on. There was a fair few numbers there. I don't think it was, from what a lot of people were saying, they didn't think that it was a good enough turnout. That's what a lot of the guys that were saying that were there. They weren't really pleased with the overall turnout, but it was peaceful. To me, it just looked like a load of guys that were just happy to get out of the house and get away from their wives or whatever, and
I bet.
get a load of beers, and they were just having a jolly up, really. They were just having a laugh. Had a few banners out at the same time and a few flares, but other than that, they were just sitting around drinking, having a laugh, catch up. Yeah, it was just like a day out, really, from being stuck in the house.
Yeah. And when they needed food, G, where did they head?
Yeah, a few of them came by, yeah. But there was a lot of drinks getting bought from the local news agents.
Yeah, I bet they did okay, yeah.
Yeah, they was piling up the boxes of beer. So, yeah, it just seemed more like a nice gathering, to be honest.
So, did it sound like there was anything kind of coordinated, and in terms of what they were trying to achieve? Did it sound like there was anything coordinated?
I heard a few chants about Levy.
We know some of them were not. Yeah, some of them were undesirable, so we won't necessarily touch on those.
And just a few people shouting a bit, but I mean, overall, I didn't hear that much that would make anyone feel worried. Like as an owner, I think Levy would have just looked at that and thought, "All right, we've got a few thousand unhappy people out there. Let's just move on." He wouldn't have been.
And what was the Sunday like?
I wasn't there on the Sunday.
On the Sunday? No,
I was closed on the Sunday, so I didn't go down. So I actually haven't seen much about the Sunday one, even on social media.
Same.
Okay. I'm surprised on the Saturday that Levy didn't fill up a transit van with a load of beers from Macro and selling it to fans on the pavement. Some bald man was spotted selling cans of Foster's.
Now you mention it, there was a.
You just imagine him being in disguise, can't you? Just selling all this stuff.
Glasses and a big nose and
just put a hat on. He wouldn't even go to that much effort to get a disguise, because that means he'd have to actually pay out some money, which would eat into his profit margins. So he probably wouldn't be that. You wouldn't want to do too much about that. But okay, that's fair enough. Okay, and then we've got like the announcement. I think was it today? Is it today that the trust, Andy, have announced that they're going to have a meeting?
I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday when they announced it. Yeah, because I think it was last Thursday. I was out somewhere in the car and I was listening to Talk Sport, which is the only time I ever listen to Talk Sport is in the car. Promise. And it was the Paul Hawksby show, and they had Martin Cloak on there. And he was talking about the various ESL stuff, and it was pretty short. But at the time, he was basically saying that the trusts weren't talking to the club board because they just felt there was a lack of trust and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, the club had come out the day before and said about the other committee that they're looking to create, the advisory committee, and one of those on that advisory committee would actually sit as a non-exec member on the club board. So I think the trust, I don't really know what the trusts are going to talk to the club about, but what they've said is that they do not want to be part of this advisory board, but they're going to talk to the club about it. So
they don't, but they also said they don't want to be on the. They don't want to be on the board themselves, do they? They're not going to put themselves.
They don't want to be on the board. No. So I don't really know what they're going to talk to them about, but I think it's good that they are talking to them, because by keeping dialogue open, that's a good thing. Yeah. I don't know why they closed it off, to be honest.
Is it not? So I mean, I know that there was a lot of reaction from the board's announcement last week about the statement that the board made about this advisory group and fan representation and stuff like that. And there was a lot of talk, about that it being reactionary and to head off the protests, the action from the protests and stuff. And and that it was too little, too late, and the trust then and also said similar. But prior to that, irrespective of which way you look at it, the trust had no plans to talk, imminent plans to talk to the board, but now all of a sudden they do. So have the board therefore, have they actually made a good, that statement? Was it actually something proactive in terms of bringing the trust to the table with them?
I think it's actually a part of a bigger picture. So the trust are all part of this fan-led government football review. So all the other big clubs are getting. I think loads of clubs are getting involved in it, and I think the club board were trying to, as you say, head off that route by assigning their own person. But I think the trust want to actually do this properly and have a structure in place so that when they do get someone on the board, it isn't like a patsy that the club could put in there potentially. And I'm not sure whether that would be the case, but nevertheless, it's all a bit kind of ambiguous what's going on. And I guess this will rumble on for quite a while. And of course, if the fan-led government review doesn't work out, which apparently it might not, according to what I've heard from the FSA, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, then the power goes all back to the clubs, and they'll do what they damn well like, which they probably will do anyway.
I think the trust moved a bit sharpish last week after Andy offered me up as the club's football rep, didn't you? You said something along the lines of, if anyone wants to have beer intravenously administered during the course of the game, then vote for Paxton Road Upper to be the football fan rep. We didn't get many takers on that, did we?
No, it's very odd, that, isn't it? I don't know why. That should be high on the agenda, surely.
Imagine that. You could just have a drip hooked up to the brewery, couldn't you?
And if Levy could do it, he'd do it, wouldn't he? Let's face it. If he could actually have premium seats with intravenous...
Imagine premium seats with your own little beer tap in the seat while you're watching the game. That would be a dream, wouldn't it?
And a commode, so you didn't actually ever have to get up. So you could just, do whatever you needed to do.
Exactly. Then a conveyor belt going around the whole stadium with G's pies on it.
Exactly.
Like in a sushi bar.
Yeah, that's right. Go Totty Pie and Mash.
Yeah. So next, moving on to the next, I think the next massive thing that, I'm surprised we've managed to get through 45 minutes or whatever it's been without touching on is the absolute bombshell that Sky Sports dropped this evening.
Gary Gilmore, I think it was, from
was it
the lead guitarist on Sky Sports. Yeah.
I thought it was Paul Gilmore.
Paul Gilmore, yeah.
Yeah. So
very well known
guitarist Paul Gilmore. Anyway, so that Kane has decided that he wants to leave this summer, and apparently he's informed the club.
That's right.
Man United, Man City, and Chelsea have registered their interest. Twitter went into immediate meltdown with, people that like cursing Levy, cursing his lack of ambition, that he's let the club down, let Kane down. Kane should go with their blessing and go on and achieve everything else that he deserves. All that sort of stuff. People feeling sick to the stomach at the news that Kane is leaving.
I do love it when people say, he gets my blessing, he can go.
Yeah.
He's really waiting for that.
Yeah, well, he was. Well, now that he's got the blessing, maybe he actually will now put in a request. But so, yeah, it was all very, very, very melodramatic, and the thing about it is that they Sky were able to confirm that, but not really give any kind of quotes or anything like that. Just that.
Did they give any odds for Sky Bet? I can't remember.
I don't think they did. Not at the time that I was listening.
Mind you, that would be a very cynical view, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. But the clubs that have registered an interest, I would assume have had a long-standing